So how do I know it's working? Does that mean it's working?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Valor's Game Maker's just one.
Alright.
I'm gonna go listen in the other room and tell you if it sounds okay.
Okay. Is it like recording?
Yeah, it's recording.
Oh, okay. So we're just doing a quick demo of Vertex Chameleon because it's a pretty quick way to texture your models in kind of a cheater way. So I'm just gonna use a little cube here because that's about the simplest it can be. Might smooth it a little bit. This should be how you're starting no matter what you're making, even if you're making something round. By the way, if you're not already, I think it's in the style guide, but just so you know, if you smooth the cube 2 times, it becomes a sphere. So once you've installed Vertex Chameleon, it should be up here in this bar. So just open it. Apply color is going to be the window you're going to be using this time, but you actually need to apply color with Maya's default color first. So just tell it to apply any color, and you can pick whatever you want. Like, let's make this red. And now it's a red sphere. It's pretty much as easy as that. There's some more tools in it that you can use to make things a little bit more particular. Like multicolor ramp, 2-color ramp. So stuff like 2-color ramp, you just go ahead and click on it, pick your colors. Let's do orange to blue. Click on the same object, apply it, and that'll give you your gradient. Most of the time you're probably going to be selecting things based on individual faces. Like say you're coloring, you know, a fruit or a sandwich in the way of sorting master, you know. This is how you distinguish different sides of the object. Let's make this just yellow and green. Now it's yellow and green. So you can also select based on edges and vertices if you have need for that. And you can use that to do things like fake lighting. So say you want to pretend like there's a yellow light underneath it. You could do something like select these vertices under here, go yellow, place RGBA. That doesn't look quite right. So let's try a little bit bigger. Something like a gradient. That's a little bit clumsy, but I think you get the idea. You can select however many faces as you want, and kind of tweak the effect so that it is eventually what you're looking to do. Yeah, that's about it. It's not terribly complicated. If you want something a little bit more in-depth, Charlie Hodgkins did a really in-depth, like 45-minute long demo. You can probably search for, if you just search Charlie Hodgkins and Vertex Chameleon. That was at CalArts last year. So when you're exporting the textures on this, you're going to use the Paint Vertex Color tool. Get these out of the way. So this is the tool you're going to use. You want to make sure that there's actually a UV map for it to go to. So that's what the map is doing right now, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So let's tell it to do the easiest thing possible right now, which is automatic mapping. Ah, dang it. There we go. So automatic mapping. Alright, so that's the shape it's giving us when you do automatic mapping. Go back over to that Paint Vertex Color tool. So if you wanted to get these colors out onto a map to give to Rodrigo or someone, Sorry, I skipped ahead a little bit. You want to make that either a JPEG or a TIFF, probably a JPEG for simplicity's sake. Sometimes TIFFs will do kind of a transparency thing for some reason, I'm finding, when you export them this way. And then tell it to export. And I'm just going to tell it to go to desktop. Can I open file? Okay, so I guess never mind, I can't do that on Nathan's computer. Where can I save it?
Yeah, I mean, just right in the source images or something, maybe right there, or just in the images.
I'm just gonna make it for
That's
you.
fine.
So, and that should be saved in that spot. So you would just pull it up and re-add it in the same way that you would any other texture map. So pretty much like select your texture and then open it up, find a file. Oh, the joy of using a strange computer.
Wait.
It's under C somewhere. It's vague.
Oh, yeah, that's helpful.
Somewhere in the C drive.
I just added a new folder into down there.
Added a new folder down there? I'm not sure.
What did you call
Anyway,
it?
I just called the folder demo. Oh, I thought it was there.
C demo.
Ah, good. There we go. So we found it. Alright. So that should be applied. And it'll be fine. When you render it out, usually, or when you copy out the texture like that, it'll have these seams. And the way you fix that is you just go into the UV texture editor here, and you can just click on these and it'll select the whole shell, and you can just size it down a little bit. And that'll make it fall within these boundaries. So it's acting a little funny. There it goes. So that way it's not getting any of this black, which is what's causing the seam. So you can see already it looks a little bit better. So that's how you fix that problem. Sometimes if you do really small details on this, you'll get kind of muddy files when you export the texture. And the way you have to fix that is pretty much just in Photoshop. I haven't really found a good solution for that yet. But so far this is the simplest way to use Vertex Chameleon with. Sometimes when you have like really nitpicky details on these, you'll get really kind of muddy textures. I'll just do it so you can kind of see the problem. So say like I've got these individual. Oh, it's Priscilla. So, like now I've got these little checkerboard pieces on the sphere, and it's probably gonna hate that. So I'm gonna export the texture again. Sorry, I'm just deleting the history so that the shader will come up. Go back into the color, go back and find a different texture file, reload, open up, and see it's sort of blurred all of my checkers, which are showing up fine here because it's using Vertex Chameleon, but when it's actually using my texture file, it's going to look like that. And that'll be clearer if we actually look at this file. Because see, it's just kind of muddled them all together. So when you've got these kinds of small details, Photoshop is still going to be kind of the way to go, but it's better to hand paint little details like that. But for the most part, this is still a pretty efficient way to get the big shapes. Given that the aesthetic of the game that we're doing right now is mostly about those big shapes. So I think this is still a pretty good solution as far as that goes. So in the future, we're probably going to want to figure out a different pipeline, but given that our deadline is next week, this is... I think it's workable.
Definitely.
Yeah, so most of the time I think what you're probably going to be using is more just these gradient tools. I usually end up just using the gradients. So, I don't know, if you wanted to make something like a fruit, you could just do something like, you cut it in half and add like another face here. I'm not doing a good job because I'm kind of rushing, but this is the idea.
Beautiful.
That's fine. Thank you. Let's try that again. Nope. I'm gonna have to do it in smaller increments. There we go. It keeps wanting to skip these individual segments. Alright. So, if I wanted to apply a color to this face, I could probably, it should still work. Maybe not. Nope. Sometimes viewport will let you override it. Oh no. Did I crash it? Nope. I'm sorry. Oh no, it's worked. It worked, it's fine. Okay. Yeah, sometimes when you open Viewport 2.0, or when you tell it to show you things in Viewport, it won't show you the actual texture map, it'll just show you Vertex Chameleon. It'll just show you Vertex colors, so they'll often look a little bit brighter. But it's not necessarily how they will look once you export the texture. But again, like I said, most of what you're probably going to be using to get the effects that you want to for Sorting Master are going to be these sorts of gradient tools, because they're pretty fast. Like make it like white fruit, like an apple or something. So you got red. So it's got like a nice skin on the outside and like white flesh on the inside. Get a green apple maybe. These colors aren't the greatest, but that's fine. Let's just be done. So. Next, I'm going to select the round face. Yeah, so there you go. So, like, this is the idea. And then you can just sort of, like, tweak it and get a little bit more specific as you add more shapes. And again, just auto UVing seems to be fine with shapes this simple, but Trevor posted a demo for like his own method of getting UVs, and then you can use that export method to get textures, because your video is going to need both object files and textures from you. And that's about it. Unless, do you have any other questions? If there's anything that was unclear or that you would like me to talk more about for Vertex Chameleon specifically?
What about you?
No, I mean, that one's fairly clear for the simplicity that we're going for now, so...
It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. That seems to be enough to me. I don't know.
Okay. So let's just call it a day then.
Yay!
Yay! Thanks everybody.